The message from the stars. It was a quiet night at the Deep Space Monitoring Station on Luna Base, Earth's outpost on the Moon. A hum of machinery filled the room, blending with the soft tapping of keys. Lieutenant Sarah Kim sipped her coffee, her eyes fixed on the blinking screen. Most nights were uneventful, just routine data collection from the galaxy. But tonight was different. A sharp beep broke the monotony. Sarah straightened in her chair, her fingers flying over the keyboard. The signal wasn't normal. It wasn't a pulsar, a stray transmission, or space debris interference. This was intentional, a message. "Command, we've got something," Sarah said into her headset. Her voice was calm, but her heart raced. Within seconds, the station's supervisor, Commander Blake, appeared beside her, his face tense. "What do you have?" he asked. Sarah expanded the signal on the screen. "It's repeating. Looks like a warning." Blake leaned closer, his eyes narrowing. The message was distorted but clear enough to decipher. "Humanity, beware. They are coming. The Galactic Empire has marked Earth for destruction." The room went silent. Blake felt a cold chill run down his spine. The Galactic Empire was a name whispered in fear among the fringe colonies, an unstoppable force that crushed entire civilizations. Most people on Earth dismissed the rumors as exaggerated tales, but this message was undeniable proof. Blake took a deep breath. "Patch this through to Earth Command. Now." Across the planet, leaders of Earth's United Nations gathered in an emergency meeting. President Elena Torres of the Global Union addressed the Council. "We've received confirmation from our colonies on Vega Prime and Proxima Beta. Their messages match what Luna Base intercepted. The Galactic Empire is on the move, and Earth is their next target." The room erupted into chaos. Delegates shouted over each other, some demanding immediate surrender, others calling for war. Torres slammed her hand on the table, silencing the crowd. "Enough," she said, her voice firm. "We cannot afford division. If the Empire sees us as weak, we'll be easy prey. We need to act now." Unbeknownst to the Galactic Empire, humanity had been preparing for this day for decades. Ever since the first reports of the Empire's conquests reached Earth, secret projects had been initiated. Deep in the asteroid belt, hidden from prying eyes, humanity had been building something extraordinary, a fleet of warships unlike anything the galaxy had seen. Admiral David Kane stood on the bridge of the UNS Resolute, the flagship of Earth's hidden fleet. The massive vessel bristled with weapons, its hull gleaming under the artificial lights of the shipyard. Kane was a man of few words, but his presence commanded respect. "Admiral, we've received the signal," his communications officer reported. "Earth Command wants us on high alert." Kane nodded. "Good. Send a message back. The fleet is ready." He turned to face his crew, his sharp eyes scanning the room. "We knew this day would come. The Galactic Empire thinks we're weak. They think they can crush us like they've crushed others. But they have no idea what humanity is capable of." His words sent a surge of determination through the crew. They had trained for years, knowing they might be the last line of defense for their homeworld. Meanwhile, far across the galaxy, the Galactic Empire's fleet moved like a dark storm. Thousands of ships, sleek and deadly, advanced toward Earth. At the heart of the fleet was the Imperator, the Emperor's personal battleship, a monstrous vessel larger than any city on Earth. Emperor Xale stood on the observation deck, his golden robes shimmering under the dim light. His expression was cold, calculating. He gazed at the holographic display of Earth, a small blue dot in the vastness of space. "Another primitive world," he said with disdain. "They will kneel, or they will burn." His advisors nodded, confident in the Empire's superiority. After all, no species had ever resisted the Empire and survived. Earth was just another conquest in their long history of domination. But Emperor Xale underestimated humanity. Back on Earth, the people braced themselves for the coming storm. Families huddled together, watching the news with fear in their eyes. Soldiers prepared for battle, their faces grim but resolute. Scientists worked tirelessly in underground labs, refining the technology that could give humanity a fighting chance. In the depths of the Atlantic Ocean, an experimental weapon was activated for the first time. A massive energy shield, capable of protecting entire cities, shimmered into existence. In orbit, Earth's defense platforms powered up, their railguns and missile batteries aimed at the stars. And in the asteroid belt, Admiral Kane's fleet began to mobilize. Engines roared to life, and the ships moved into formation. The time for hiding was over. As the Galactic Empire's fleet drew closer, tension gripped the planet. The people of Earth knew the odds were against them. They were fighting a force that had destroyed countless civilizations, but they also knew what was at stake: everything they loved, everything they had built. In the quiet moments before the battle, Admiral Kane sent a message to Earth. "Stay strong," he said. "The Galactic Empire thinks we are weak. They are wrong. Humanity will not go quietly into the night. We will fight, and we will win." The message spread like wildfire, igniting hope across the globe. Humanity was ready to face the impossible. And as the first shadows of the Empire's fleet appeared in the night sky, the people of Earth stood united, their hearts burning with defiance. The battle for survival had begun. The first strike. The stars above Earth shimmered peacefully, but everyone on the ground knew the calm would not last. In the Luna Base Control Center, Lieutenant Sarah Kim stared at the radar screen, her hands trembling. Dozens of blips appeared, moving fast, too fast. "Commander Blake, they're here," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Blake stood behind her, his jaw tight. The Galactic Empire's ships had breached the outer perimeter of the Sol system, moving with precision and confidence. They believed this would be an easy victory. Far above, in the void of space, the Empire's first wave emerged from hyperspace. Their ships were sleek, angular, and painted in the obsidian black of Imperial authority. The lead vessel, Ravager, bristled with weapons and energy shields, its commander radiating arrogance. "Prepare to broadcast our terms," Captain Virik ordered, standing tall on the Ravager's bridge. His red eyes glinted as he gazed at the small blue planet on the view screen. "Earth will surrender, or we will teach them the cost of defiance." The communication officer nodded, sending an open transmission to Earth. The ultimatum was brief. "Surrender your planet and all resources to the Galactic Empire. Refusal will result in complete annihilation." On Earth, the response was equally brief. "Come and try." Virik's lips curled into a smirk. "Primitive fools. Target their orbital defenses. Destroy them." The Ravager led the charge, firing its plasma cannons at Earth's defense satellites. The Empire's fleet advanced in a tight formation, systematically dismantling what they assumed to be humanity's only line of resistance. But humanity had planned for this moment. As the Empire's ships drew closer to Earth, hidden railgun platforms buried beneath the surface of the moon came online. Silent and deadly, they unleashed a storm of tungsten projectiles. The first volley tore through the shields of 3 Imperial frigates, leaving them in flames. "Return fire." Virik barked, his confidence shaken. The Empire's ships adjusted their formation, but it was too late. A second barrage from the moon's defenses ripped through the enemy fleet, forcing them to retreat temporarily. The Galactic Empire had underestimated humanity's resourcefulness and their technology. On board the UNS Resolute, Admiral Kane watched the battle unfold with grim satisfaction. His fleet was still hidden in the asteroid belt, waiting for the right moment to strike. The Empire's first wave was already faltering, but Kane knew better than to celebrate early. "Status report," Kane said, his voice steady. "Moon defenses holding strong." "Admiral," his tactical officer replied. "We've taken out 6 enemy vessels, but their reinforcements are closing in." Kane nodded. "Let them come. They think this is all we've got. They're about to learn how wrong they are." The Resolute powered up its engines, followed by the rest of Earth's hidden fleet. Massive warships, bristling with advanced weaponry and armor, moved into position. Humanity's counterstrike was about to begin. Back on the Ravager, Captain Virik seethed with frustration. What is this? They're supposed to be a primitive species. How are they fighting back? One of his officers, pale and nervous, replied, Captain, sensors are picking up multiple large vessels, emerging from the asteroid belt. The view screen flickered, and Virik's eyes widened. Earth's fleet was unlike anything the Empire had encountered before. These ships were not sleek or elegant. They were massive, heavily armored, and armed to the teeth. They moved with purpose, their engines glowing like angry stars. At the center of the formation was the Resolute, its presence a challenge to the Empire. Open fire, Virik shouted, panic creeping into his voice. The first shots from the Resolute came from its main railgun, a weapon so powerful it could split small moons. The projectile smashed into the Ravager's shields, causing them to flicker and fail. The Ravager reeled from the impact, and its hull groaned under the pressure. Earth's fleet advanced with precision. Missile salvos streaked across the battlefield, finding their marks on Imperial vessels. Drones swarmed around the enemy ships, exploiting weaknesses in their designs. The Empire's fleet, accustomed to fighting lesser species, was unprepared for such a coordinated assault. Admiral Kane's voice rang out over the comms. All ships target their flagships. Show them what humanity can do. The Resolute launched a barrage of plasma torpedoes, each one guided by advanced AI. The torpedoes weaved through enemy defenses, striking critical systems. Explosions lit up the darkness, and the Empire's once mighty formation began to crumble. On the ground, people watched in awe as the battle unfolded on their screens. For the first time in history, humanity wasn't the helpless victim of a superior force. They were fighting back and winning. In a small town in Texas, a young boy whispered to his father, "We can win, right?" His father, eyes fixed on the screen, nodded. "We can, and we will." As the first wave of the Empire's fleet retreated, badly damaged and disorganized, Captain Virik sent a desperate message to Emperor Exhale. "Your Majesty, the humans, they're not what we expected. They're fleet." Before he could finish, the Resolute fired one last railgun shot. The projectile tore through the Ravager, splitting it in two. The transmission went dead. In the quiet that followed, Admiral Kane stood on the bridge of the Resolute, his gaze steely. "Send a message to Earth Command," he said. "The first wave is down, but this is only the beginning." Far across the galaxy, Emperor Exhale received the news. For the first time in centuries, the Galactic Empire had been challenged, and it wouldn't be the last. The battle for Earth had only just begun. The Empire strikes back. The wreckage of the first wave of the Galactic Empire's fleet floated in orbit around Jupiter. Flames flickered in the void as broken ships drifted aimlessly. Humanity's victory in the opening battle sent shockwaves through the galaxy, but the celebrations on Earth were short-lived. Deep in the Imperial core, Emperor Exhale sat on his black throne, his golden eyes gleaming with fury. The defeat of his first wave was a humiliation the Empire had never endured. Around him, advisors whispered nervously, unsure of how to calm their enraged ruler. How could a primitive species achieve this? Kael growled, his voice low and dangerous. How could they destroy our fleet? One of his commanders, General Tiven, stepped forward, his expression grim. "Your Majesty, it seems humanity has hidden its strength. They possess advanced weapons, warships, and something else. Their spirit." Exhale's lips curled into a sneer. "Spirit? They are insects. I will crush them beneath my boot." The Emperor stood, raising his hand toward the massive holographic display of Earth. "Send the second wave. Triple their numbers. No mercy." Meanwhile, on the Resolute, Admiral Kane reviewed the reports from the first battle. The crew celebrated quietly, but Kane's sharp mind was already focused on what was coming next. "They won't stop," Kane said, addressing his senior officers. "We've drawn blood, and now they'll come for vengeance." Commander Jax, his second-in-command, nodded. "Do we have any intel on their next move?" Before Kane could respond, a signal came through the ship's comms. It was Sarah Kim from Luna Base. Her voice was urgent. "Admiral Kane, we're detecting a massive fleet entering the outer edge of the Sol system. It's 3 times the size of the first wave." The room fell silent. Kane's jaw tightened, but his voice remained calm. "Send us the data. We need to prepare." Earth's leaders gathered once again in an emergency meeting. President Elena Torres stood at the head of the table, her expression resolute. "The Empire is sending a force we've never faced before," Torres began. "This isn't just about Earth anymore. If we fall, the Empire will destroy everything we've built." Her words carried weight. Everyone in the room knew the stakes. Humanity's survival depended on their ability to hold their ground against an overwhelming force. "We need to show them that we will not be conquered," Torres continued. "Admiral Kane and his fleet will be our first line of defense. We'll support them with everything we have." As the second wave of the Empire's fleet entered the Sol system, it moved with precision and ruthless efficiency. Thousands of ships formed an impenetrable wall of destruction. At the head of the fleet was the Eviscerator, a dreadnought twice the size of the Ravager. Its commander, Grand Admiral Lorne, was a seasoned veteran who had crushed dozens of rebellions. "They've had their moment of defiance," Lorne said coldly to his bridge crew. "Now we remind them who rules the galaxy." The Eviscerator unleashed a barrage of energy beams, targeting Earth's orbital defenses. The Empire's smaller ships moved in tight formations, bombarding human positions with relentless fire. On board the Resolute, Kane stood on the bridge, his hands clasped behind his back. The battle had begun, and humanity was already being pushed to its limits. "Activate the trap," Kane ordered. From the asteroid belt, hidden mines powered by experimental gravitic technology activated. The mines created sudden, violent gravity wells, pulling several Imperial ships out of formation and crushing them under their own weight. The Empire's fleet adjusted quickly, avoiding the traps, but the momentary chaos allowed Earth's warships to launch their counterattack. The Resolute led the charge, its railguns firing relentlessly. Smaller human ships flanked the Imperial vessels, their advanced eye-guided missiles finding weak points in enemy armor. Despite their efforts, the Empire's sheer numbers began to overwhelm them. "All ships, fall back to the secondary line," Kane commanded, his voice calm but firm. The fleet regrouped near Earth's experimental energy shield, which shimmered like a wall of light around the planet. As the Imperial fleet advanced, the shield absorbed their attacks, buying humanity precious time. On the ground, the people of Earth watched the battle with a mix of fear and hope. In underground bunkers and hidden shelters, families huddled together, praying for a miracle. Soldiers prepared for the worst, knowing they might be called to fight if the fleet failed. In one such bunker, a young woman named Lena held her daughter tightly. The little girl whispered, "Will they protect us?" Lena forced a smile. "They will. They're fighting for all of us." As the battle raged on, the Eviscerator targeted the energy shield, firing a concentrated beam of destructive energy. The shield held for a moment before cracking under the pressure. Kane watched as the shimmering wall flickered, then collapsed. "Shield is down, Admiral," Commander Jax reported. Kane's face remained stoic. "It's not over yet. Deploy the Valkyrie Squadron." From hidden hangars on the moon, a squadron of experimental human fighters launched into space. These sleek, agile ships were piloted by the best humanity had to offer. Equipped with advanced cloaking technology, they weaved through the Imperial fleet, targeting critical systems on the Empire's largest ships. The Eviscerator shuddered as one of its main engines exploded, forcing it to slow down. Grand Admiral Lorne clenched his fists, realizing the humans were far more resourceful than he had anticipated. Despite their successes, the battle took a heavy toll on humanity's fleet. Several of Earth's warships were lost, and the Resolute itself sustained damage. Admiral Kane knew they couldn't keep this up forever. "Prepare the fleet for a tactical retreat," Kane ordered. "We need to regroup and strike back when they least expect it." As Earth's fleet pulled back, the Empire's ships pursued them, relentless in their mission to destroy humanity. The second wave was far from over, and the Galactic Empire showed no signs of stopping. But deep in the asteroid belt, a new weapon was being prepared, something humanity had kept secret even from its own allies. The fight for Earth was far from finished. Humanity's ultimate weapon. The Resolute drifted in the shadow of an asteroid, its hull scorched and its engines barely holding together. Admiral Kane stood on the bridge, his gaze fixed on the tactical display. The Galactic Empire's second wave was regrouping after their relentless pursuit, preparing for another assault. "How long until they find us?" Kane asked, his voice calm but laced with urgency. "Minutes, Admiral," Commander Jax replied. "Their scanners are sweeping the area." Kane turned to his communications officer. "Signal the Aegis protocol. It's time." The crew exchanged glances. The Aegis protocol was a term whispered among the fleet, a classified operation so secret even Kane's officers didn't know its full details. Deep within the asteroid belt, hidden from prying eyes, humanity's ultimate weapon stirred. It was the UNS Leviathan, a warship so massive it could rival small moons. Built in complete secrecy over decades, the Leviathan wasn't just a ship, it was a fortress. The ship's activation sent ripples through space. Its engines roared to life, and its hull, bristling with experimental weaponry, gleamed under the distant starlight. The Leviathan was humanity's answer to the Galactic Empire's overwhelming force. Captain Mira Solis, commander of the Leviathan, received the signal from the Resolute. Her sharp features softened into a determined smile. "Prepare for engagement," she ordered. "Let's show them what humanity is capable of." The Galactic Empire's fleet hovered near a massive asteroid cluster, their sensors sweeping the area. Grand Admiral Lorne stood on the bridge of the Eviscerator, his hands clasped behind his back. "Humans are like rats," Lorne said coldly. "They scurry and hide, but there's no escape." Suddenly, his tactical officer shouted, "Admiral, massive energy signature detected. It's moving." Before Lorne could respond, the Leviathan emerged from the shadows, its colossal form dwarfing even the Empire's dreadnoughts. The ship's hull shimmered as it activated a cutting-edge energy field, deflecting the first barrage of Imperial fire. "What in the void is that?" Lorne whispered, his confidence shaken for the first time. The Leviathan wasted no time. Its main cannon, an antimatter railgun capable of obliterating entire fleets, powered up with a low hum that grew into a deafening roar. The first shot tore through the Empire's formation, vaporizing 3 capital ships in an instant. On the Resolute, Admiral Kane watched the display with grim satisfaction. "The Leviathan is online. Let's give them a taste of their own medicine." The Resolute and the rest of Earth's fleet surged forward, using the Leviathan as their spearhead. Humanity's forces, once on the defensive, now launched a coordinated counterattack. On board the Leviathan, Captain Solis remained focused, her voice steady as she issued commands. The ship's AI, nicknamed Prometheus, worked in tandem with her crew, analyzing enemy movements and predicting their next steps. "Prometheus, status?" Solis asked. "The Empire's fleet is adapting," the AI replied, its tone calm. "They're attempting to flank us. Recommend deploying drone swarms." "Do it," Solis ordered. From the Leviathan's hull, thousands of combat drones emerged, forming a living shield around the ship. The drones intercepted incoming fire, retaliating with pinpoint accuracy. The Empire's ships struggled to keep up with the relentless assault. On the Eviscerator, Lorne clenched his fists. This isn't possible. How did a primitive species create something like that?" An officer replied nervously, "Admiral, their technology is decades ahead of what we expected. We're losing ships faster than we can reposition. Lorne's eyes narrowed. Fall back. We need to regroup and assess this threat. As the Empire's fleet began to retreat, the Leviathan pursued them relentlessly. Its antimatter railgun fired again, carving a path of destruction through the enemy lines. Smaller human ships flanked the Imperial vessels, picking them off one by one. But the battle wasn't without cost. Several human ships were lost, and the strain on the fleet was evident. Admiral Kane knew this was only a temporary victory. "Signal the fleet to regroup," Kane ordered. "We can't let them think we're overextending." Back on Earth, the people watched the battle unfold on their screens. For the first time, hope replaced fear. The Leviathan was a symbol of humanity's resilience and ingenuity, proof that they could stand against the galaxy's most powerful force. In a small classroom in Tokyo, a teacher paused her lecture to show her students the live feed. A boy raised his hand. "Does this mean we're going to win?" The teacher smiled, her voice trembling with emotion. "It means we have a chance." In the galactic core, Emperor Xael watched the footage of the battle with a cold expression. His advisors murmured nervously, unsure of how to address this unprecedented challenge. Xael stood, his golden eyes burning with anger. "Send the word. Activate Project Nemesis." His advisors froze. Project Nemesis was a last resort weapon, one so destructive it had only been used once in the Empire's history. It was a weapon designed not just to destroy fleets, but to annihilate entire planets. Xael's voice was like ice. "If they want to play with fire, we will show them the fury of the Empire." As the Leviathan returned to the safety of the asteroid belt, Admiral Kane received the message from Earth Command. "Admiral, we've intercepted Imperial communications." Sarah Kim's voice came through. "They're activating something called Project Nemesis." Kane's heart sank. "What is it?" "We don't know," Sarah replied, her tone grim. "But it's coming for us." The battle had been won, but the war was far from over. Humanity had shown its strength, but the Empire was preparing to unleash a weapon that could wipe them out completely. The next phase of the conflict would decide the fate of Earth, and perhaps the galaxy itself. The trap. The Resolute glided silently through the asteroid belt, its hull dimmed to avoid detection. Admiral Kane stared at the tactical display, his mind racing. The intercepted transmission about Project Nemesis had sent chills through the fleet. It wasn't just a weapon. It was a declaration of annihilation. "Admiral!" Commander Jax interrupted his thoughts. "Sarah Kim from Luna Base is on the line. She says she has information on Project Nemesis." Kane turned sharply. "Put her through." Sarah's voice crackled over the comms. "Admiral, we analyzed the intercepted data. Project Nemesis isn't just one weapon. It's a fleet of autonomous doomsday ships. Each is armed with planetary disruption warheads. If they reach Earth, they'll tear the planet apart." The room fell silent. Kane clenched his fists. "How long until they're operational?" "Based on their deployment speed, we estimate 2 weeks," Sarah replied. "They're gathering near a dead star system called Talvanis. If we strike there, we might have a chance to destroy them before they're activated." Kane's eyes narrowed. "Then we set the trap. Send the coordinates to the fleet." In the shadows of Talvanis, the Galactic Empire's engineers worked tirelessly, assembling the Nemesis ships. Massive, ominous, and bristling with weapons, the vessels were unlike anything humanity had faced. Grand Admiral Lorne oversaw the operation, his confidence restored after the earlier losses. "These ships will bring humanity to its knees," Lorne said to his officers. "By the time they realize what's coming, it will be too late." Unbeknownst to him, humanity was already on its way. The UNS Leviathan and the remaining fleet approached Talvanis under full stealth, their engines running cold to avoid detection. Captain Solis coordinated with Admiral Kane, her voice calm and steady despite the stakes. "Admiral, the Leviathan is ready to engage," Solis said. "If we can disable their command network, the Nemesis fleet will be vulnerable." Kane nodded. We'll need a diversion to draw their forces away from the core fleet. A small group of human ships, led by the Resolute, emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Talvanis system, firing on the Empire's outer defenses. The sudden attack sent shockwaves through the Empire's ranks. On board the Eviscerator, Lorne sneered. The fools have come to us. Deploy the fleet. Destroy them. As the bulk of the Empire's ships moved to intercept the Resolute, they left the core fleet of Nemesis ships exposed. Exactly as Kane had planned. The Leviathan emerged from the shadows, its massive railgun already primed. Its first shot obliterated an Imperial command ship, severing critical lines of communication. The Nemesis fleet powered up in response, their autonomous systems kicking in, but without central coordination, their movements were erratic. Captain Solis hit their reactors. Kane ordered over the comms. The Leviathan unleashed its drones, each one carrying high-yield explosives. The drones weaved through enemy fire, targeting the Nemesis ship's reactors. Explosions lit up the darkness as one by one, the deadly vessels were neutralized. On the Resolute, Kane monitored the battle. The diversion had worked, but the Empire's fleet was closing in fast. How long until the Nemesis fleet is neutralized? He asked. 5 minutes, Admiral, Solis replied. We're almost there. Kane's eyes narrowed. We don't have 5 minutes. The Eviscerator appeared on the tactical display, its weapons targeting the Leviathan. Grand Admiral Lorne's voice echoed over the comms, filled with venom. Did you really think you could win, Kane? This ends now. The Eviscerator fired its main cannon, a concentrated energy beam aimed directly at the Leviathan. Solis reacted instantly, deploying the ship's energy shields. The beam struck, causing the shields to flicker but hold. Admiral, we can't take another hit like that, Solis warned. Kane's mind raced. They needed to neutralize the Eviscerator before it could destroy their last hope. Commander Jax, prepare the Resolute for a ramming maneuver. The crew froze. Admiral, you can't be serious. That's an order. Kane barked. If we lose the Leviathan, Earth is finished. The Resolute surged forward, its engines burning at full capacity. The crew braced themselves as the ship barreled toward the Eviscerator. Lorne watched in disbelief, his voice rising in panic. What are they doing? Evasive maneuvers. The Resolute collided with the Eviscerator, its reinforced prow smashing into the enemy dreadnought's primary weapon systems. The explosion sent shockwaves through both ships, disabling the Eviscerator and leaving the Resolute heavily damaged. On the bridge of the Resolute, Kane struggled to his feet. The ship's alarms blared, but he smiled grimly. Mission accomplished. With the Eviscerator out of the fight, the Leviathan finished its assault on the Nemesis fleet. The last of the Doomsday ships exploded, their threat extinguished. The Empire's forces, now disorganized and leaderless, began to retreat. As the battle ended, the Resolute drifted in the debris field, its hull battered but intact. Kane's crew cheered as the Leviathan sent a victory signal. Humanity had won another battle, but the war was far from over. Back on the Eviscerator, a wounded and humiliated Lorne sent a message to Emperor Xale. Your Majesty, the Nemesis fleet, is gone. Xale's response was icy. Prepare for my arrival. I will deal with this, personally. The Empire's wrath was far from spent, and Earth's greatest challenge was still to come. The final battle. The stars above Earth were quiet, a deceptive calm as humanity's fleets returned to regroup and repair. The victory at Talvanis had cost them dearly, but the destruction of the Nemesis fleet had bought precious time. On board the UNS Leviathan, Captain Mira Solis watched as engineers worked tirelessly to patch up the massive ship. Admiral Kane survived that collision, Solis said to herself, relief in her voice. But for how long can we keep this up? Her thoughts were interrupted by a transmission from Luna Base. Lieutenant Sarah Kim's voice trembled as she relayed the message. Captain, we've detected another Imperial fleet approaching Earth. This one, it's unlike anything we've seen before. There are hundreds of dreadnoughts, and their flagship is massive, nearly the size of the moon. Solas's heart sank. She knew this wasn't just another attack. This was the Empire's full force, led by Emperor Xale himself. In orbit, Admiral Kane stood on the bridge of the heavily damaged Resolute. The ship was still operational, though barely. Kane had refused evacuation, insisting on staying with his crew. "Admiral," Commander Jack said, "the Empire's flagship has entered the system. Scans indicate it's armed with a planetary annihilation cannon." Kane's jaw tightened. He had heard rumors of such a weapon, one capable of destroying Earth in a single blast. "What's their ETA?" 6 hours, Jax replied. "They're moving slowly, likely to intimidate us." Kane's mind raced. "We need to hit them before they reach firing range. Gather the fleet. It's all or nothing." The Galactic Empire's flagship, the Oblivion, was a marvel of destruction. Its hull shimmered with advanced shielding, and its weapons systems could vaporize entire fleets. Emperor Xale stood on the command deck, gazing at the blue jewel of Earth on the view screen. "They've resisted longer than expected," Xale said, his tone cold. "But this ends now. Humanity will be erased." His officers nodded silently, their fear of the Emperor keeping them from voicing their doubts. The Empire had never committed so many resources to a single battle, and yet the humans had proven unpredictable. The combined human fleet, led by the Leviathan and the damaged Resolute, formed a defensive line near Mars. Admiral Kane addressed his commanders via holographic link. "Listen carefully," Kane began, his voice steady. "The Oblivion is their hammer, but we're going to be their anvil. They'll expect us to defend Earth directly, but we're taking the fight to them. The Leviathan will lead a frontal assault to distract them, while our smaller ships target their support vessels. Once their formation breaks, we hit the Oblivion with everything we have." The room was silent. Everyone knew the odds, but Kane's unwavering determination lit a fire in their hearts. The battle began with a thunderous roar. Humanity's fleet surged toward the Empire, their railguns and plasma cannons firing in unison. The Leviathan led the charge, its massive railgun striking the Imperial dreadnoughts with pinpoint precision. The Empire retaliated, their ships firing energy beams that sliced through smaller human vessels. The void lit up with explosions as ships from both sides were torn apart. On board the Leviathan, Captain Solas gritted her teeth. "Prometheus, focus all fire on their command ships. We need to disrupt their coordination." The AI responded instantly, directing drones and missiles toward the Imperial fleet. Several enemy ships exploded, their formations faltering. Emperor Xale watched the battle unfold, his expression unreadable. "They fight like cornered beasts," he said, "but they cannot stop the Oblivion." "Your Majesty," one of his officers interjected, "the human fleet is targeting our support vessels. Their strategy is working." Xale's golden eyes narrowed, "Then crush their spearhead. Focus all fire on the Leviathan." The Leviathan shuddered as multiple energy beams struck its shields. Solas gripped the edge of her console as alarms blared. "Shields at critical," one of her officers shouted. "Divert all power to weapons," Solas ordered. "If we're going down, we're taking them with us." The Leviathan's main railgun fired, its shot piercing through 2 dreadnoughts and damaging a third. The massive ship continued its assault, refusing to back down. Admiral Kane, on board the Resolute, saw the Empire's formation begin to crumble. "This is it," he said. "Signal all ships to concentrate fire on the Oblivion. We need to breach their defenses." Human ships swarmed the Oblivion, targeting its shield generators. The flagship's defenses were formidable, but the coordinated assault began to take its toll. Explosions rippled across its surface as critical systems failed. Emperor Xale's calm facade cracked as alarms filled the bridge of the Oblivion. "Impossible," he muttered. "How are they?" Before he could finish, a direct hit rocked the ship. Flames erupted on the command deck, and his officers scrambled to maintain control. "Your Majesty," one of them said, "the planetary cannon is still operational. If we fire now, we can destroy Earth before they finish us." Sel hesitated, his pride warring with his desperation. Finally, he snarled, "Do it." On board the Leviathan, Prometheus detected the buildup of energy in the Oblivion's main cannon. "Captain, they're preparing to fire on Earth," the AI warned. Solus's eyes hardened. "Not on my watch. Prepare for collision course." The crew froze. "Captain, you can't." "Do it," she shouted. The Leviathan surged forward, its engines burning at maximum thrust. The ship collided with the Oblivion, its reinforced hull piercing the flagship like a spear. The impact triggered a chain reaction, and the Oblivion began to break apart. Admiral Kane watched as the Leviathan disappeared in the explosion, taking the Oblivion with it. His heart ached for the sacrifice, but he knew it had saved Earth. The remaining Imperial ships, leaderless and disorganized, began to retreat. Humanity had won the battle, but the cost was staggering. As the dust settled, Kane transmitted a message to Earth. "The Leviathan is gone, but so is the Oblivion. Earth is safe. For now." The people of Earth cheered, their hope renewed. But Kane knew the war wasn't over. The Galactic Empire had been dealt a heavy blow, but they would return, and humanity would be ready. In the silence of space, the shattered remains of the Leviathan and the Oblivion drifted, a testament to the courage of humanity, and the lengths they were willing to go to survive. A new dawn. The battlefield of space was silent, littered with the wreckage of the Galactic Empire's once unbeatable fleet. Humanity had prevailed, but the cost was immeasurable. Admiral Kane stood on the bridge of the Resolute, his weary eyes fixed on the holographic map of Earth. It remained intact, its people safe. "For now, Admiral," Commander Jack said softly, "we're receiving transmissions from across the galaxy. Allied species are rising up against the Empire. They've heard about our victory." Kane nodded, his voice low but resolute. "Good. Let them know humanity stands with them. We didn't fight just for Earth. We fought for freedom." Across the galactic core, news of the Empire's defeat at Earth spread like wildfire. Subjugated species whispered of rebellion, their hope reignited by the unthinkable. An empire that had never lost was now vulnerable. In the heart of the Imperial Palace, Emperor Xel's golden throne room stood eerily quiet. His once loyal advisors now cowered in fear, whispering about the failure of the Oblivion. Xel sat on his throne, his hands trembling, his golden eyes burning with rage. "They will pay for this humiliation," Xel growled. "Prepare the remaining fleets. If Earth wants to play the hero, we will show them the cost of defiance." On Earth, celebrations erupted as humanity learned of the Empire's retreat. Streets were filled with cheers, laughter, and tears of relief. But not everyone celebrated. In a small town in Colorado, a young girl sat by her window, looking up at the night sky. Her father, a soldier lost in the defense of Earth, wouldn't be coming home. She whispered a quiet promise to herself, "I'll make sure his sacrifice wasn't in vain." Back in orbit, the surviving human fleet gathered for repairs. The Resolute, battered and scarred, was hailed as a symbol of resilience. Admiral Kane addressed the fleet in a live broadcast, his voice echoing across every ship and colony. "Today, we proved that humanity will not bow. We faced the most powerful force in the galaxy and stood our ground. But this is only the beginning." He paused, letting his words sink in. "The Empire will return. They will strike harder, faster, and more ruthlessly than ever before. But we will not face them alone. The galaxy is watching. Together, we can end the tyranny of the Galactic Empire." In the following weeks, humanity's actions spoke louder than Kane's words. Messages were sent to other species, offering alliances and support. Earth opened its borders to refugees fleeing the Empire. a gesture of solidarity that resonated across the stars. One such refugee was Talaris, a scientist from a species nearly wiped out by the Empire. Standing in the heart of Earth's bustling global research facility, she marveled at humanity's ingenuity and determination. "You humans are remarkable," she said to a young engineer. "You fight not just for yourselves, but for others." The engineer smiled. "That's what we do. We protect what matters." Meanwhile, deep in the asteroid belt, a salvage team worked tirelessly on the shattered remains of the Leviathan. Captain Mira Solis had sacrificed everything to save Earth, and her crew's bravery inspired the effort to rebuild the ship. As the team extracted its core eye, Prometheus's voice activated. "Status?" it asked, its tone steady despite the damage. The lead engineer grinned. "You're coming back, Prometheus. Humanity's going to need you." Far across the galaxy, pockets of rebellion erupted against the Empire. On the desert planet of Morven, a group of insurgents ambushed an Imperial outpost, shouting the rallying cry, "For Earth, for freedom." The Empire's control began to falter. Subjugated species realized that the Empire wasn't invincible, and they began to organize. Secret meetings were held in darkened caves, abandoned space stations, and hidden enclaves. In one such meeting, a leader of a reptilian race addressed her people. "The humans have shown us the way. Now we must show them that they are not alone." Back on Earth, Admiral Kane received a transmission from a rebel faction deep within the Empire's territory. Their leader, a scared warrior named Calorish, appeared on the screen. "Admiral Kane," Calorish said, his voice rough but respectful, "you've inspired more than you know. We are ready to fight. Tell us how we can help." Kane leaned forward, his voice steady. "Coordinate with our fleet. We'll supply you with what we can. Together, we'll bring the Empire to its knees." The final scene unfolded in the galactic core. Emperor Excel watched as reports of rebellion flooded in. His once mighty empire was unraveling, but his resolve remained unshaken. "If they want a war," Excel said, his voice a deadly whisper, "then I will give them one." Behind him, a massive hologram displayed the plans for a new flagship, larger and more powerful than the Oblivion. It was the Empire's last hope of reclaiming dominance, and Xael intended to wield it with ruthless efficiency. On Earth, Kane stood on the bridge of the newly repaired Resolute. The fleet was preparing for its next mission, one that would take them deep into enemy territory. Commander Jack's approach, a rare smile on his face. "Admiral, the crews are ready. They believe in you." Kane looked out at the stars. "It's not just about me, Jax. It's about all of us. This isn't just a fight for survival. It's a fight for the future." The Resolute powered up its engines, followed by the rest of the fleet. Humanity's journey wasn't over. The Galactic Empire was still a threat, but Earth had shown the galaxy what it meant to stand together. And as the fleet disappeared into the vastness of space, one thing was certain: humanity's light would never be extinguished.